Welcome to Tea Time with Talent Acquisition, the podcast aimed at fostering knowledge and sharing stories within the vibrant talent acquisition community. I'm your host, Eden, and for the next hour or so, I'm going to be joined by a HR professional and talent acquisition manager who started his career as a generalist and is now turned into a specialist. Recognizing his passion for HR, he pursued a master's degree in human resource management before spending 5 years in what we call general HR, pivoting towards talent acquisition in 2022, but bringing along his breadth of experience to shape an empathetic and a communicative-driven hiring process. With relationship building at the core value throughout his career, he now shares insights on how talent professionals can forge meaningful connections with candidates, offering actionable insights that we believe can implement right away and change your processes. So when you're ready, grab your favorite tea or coffee if you prefer, and join me in welcome to today's guest, the Senior Talent Acquisition Manager with the team at Bling, Matthias Hecht. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for that great introduction, and also thank you for having me.
And to be fair, it's a nice introduction when you have a lot to kind of go through and talk about, and your LinkedIn was also nicely updated, which also makes my life a lot easier. But
Yes.
no, in all seriousness, it's really nice to actually see somebody who clearly understood what they wanted to do from their career from quite a young age. I find a lot of the people I speak to, we fall into recruitment or you fall into HR and then you kind of just become part of the career, as it were. I mean, I fell in, I won't lie, but to sit back and go, I want to work in that industry. I'm going to go pursue my master's here. It's a very different route than what a lot of people do. So, like I said, it's genuinely a pleasure to kind of peel back a little bit more about who you are and like the topic of today and kind of creating relationships. So, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, what I want to do is ask you just a teaser question, as it were, Matthias. Everyone gets the same one, and it's just a nice way to understand where you feel we are and where teams are. So, from your perspective, what do you feel makes a high performing talent team in the current market?
What makes a high-performing talent team in the current market? Being quick, definitely.
Hmm.
Like you have to be quick, you have to be responsive. You have to also understand trends maybe and how to reach out to people. And yeah, probably understanding how to build great relationships, which is something that we're going to talk about today, right? Um, and also be connected with each other, like talk to each other and support each other. I do think that this is really not a one-man show. When you're in a team, especially in-house, um, there is no such thing. Oh, this is your role. Like, I'm not taking care of this.
Yeah.
If there's something like really crucial that we need to fill and we're struggling, we've all been there. We all had roles that just take forever. Support each other. Like
Mm.
that's what we're here for. Like we're aiming for the same goal, right? So yeah, just be nice to each other and help each other out.
Podcast finished, done. Everyone take note. That's what we need to do. But no, in all seriousness, though, I like I said, I agree. I think I like the fact you said speed. That'd be the first time someone said that. Also the other elements as well, having that supportive culture, it comes up quite a lot, but I think it just emulates what people are really thinking on how we want to build, high performing teams. You said relationships, so let's segue into that. So when we first started talking, you said the right relationships with candidates. So explain to me what you mean when you say right relationships, and just to kind of give you an idea, I thought about it and it sparks emotion to some degree, right and wrong. How can you have a right or wrong relationship with a candidate? And I imagine the moment I say right relationship, someone's also immediately in their own mind thinking, no, you can't say that. Like, no, every relationship has to be. So, give me your own thought process. What do you mean?
Well, first of all, figure out what are you looking for? Like, who are you looking for and what are you expecting from that person? And I definitely tend to really go for a very friendly, very welcoming, very open relationship or communication, let's say it like that, from the
Mhm.
get-go. I want to make them feel welcome, but also keep in mind we're still trying to fill a role. So make them feel comfortable, not too comfortable, although we're not in that good cop, bad cop scenery anymore. So the right relationship means make them feel comfortable, but also don't make them feel too sure about what's going on, because you can never promise anything. And also, yeah, if they think that they're gonna have it anyways, maybe they will not show their full potential anymore. So we're testing each other. They're testing us, we're testing them. So therefore, it's important to also have a kind of a close relationship with them, but not too close, right? So we
Yeah.
still wanna, yeah, make sure that they can prove themselves to us.
And is that something that you do in the first interview, that or the first conversation, put an interview discussion, whatever, but between you and the candidate, or is it something that you're building up throughout the entire process?
It definitely builds up. I do have a very big focus on keeping it cool, kind of,
Hmm.
like don't stress the people. But of course, like we are going more and more into detail throughout the whole process. We usually have like a four-step process. I start with with the screening call, then we have a deep dive interview, then we have some kind of work challenge, and then a final vibe check, value check, team fit, however you want to call it. And first, like with every step, we look at more details basically because we want to make sure that this person fits for us. But of course, also like in the first call, as said before, I usually keep it really chill. I want to make them feel comfortable, but I will try to ask some tricky questions as well just to get them a little bit out of their comfort zone, see how would they react in certain situations and so on. So
Yeah.
they're always being tested.
The kind of comment of comfortability and making them feel comfortable. Of course, you don't want someone to feel stressed, and as you say, people don't
Yeah,
perform very well there. But rightfully said as well, if they're too comfortable, they also might not just try hard. So there's that fine line. So how have you managed to, I guess,
exactly.
learn that throughout your career to a point now where you feel, okay, I know what I'm doing? What was kind of, I guess, some of the lessons that learned, the good or bad, that you've kind of gone through?
Um, well, first, I think what comes in very handy for me is that I feel like I've always been able to read people quite well.
Hmm.
And but something that you learn is definitely be prepared for almost anything. Like preparation in general is super important. Like have your questions ready. Um, look at their CV and then figure out what you want to hear from them. But often they will not give you what you need. So then you will also need to make sure listen to what they said, try to build up on that, which will not always work. I think we've also always, everyone has been there where you spoke to a candidate who just doesn't give you anything. And something that I learned from them is you don't have to force it as well. If someone doesn't give you anything, then it's maybe not the right person for the job, right? And it's also absolutely fine to recognize that and then keep going with your questions,
Hmm.
give your best in that, and then also, of course, keep going with your interview, but then don't think too much about it, probably.
Yeah. I always look at it as I'm an arm around someone. I'm a friend, I'm an arm around you throughout the process, but there is the
Yeah,
gap, right? So we're not like that, but there's the gap
exactly.
between there, because there still needs to be
Yeah,
this element of, and I think, when we were speaking before we click record, when you get into that real closing period of time, I mean, we should be closing throughout the whole process, but when we get the offers
Yeah.
out, and if you're too friendly, and I learned this the hard way, if you're too friendly, it can become a bit of a stark difference when you then start turning up the heat, going, okay, like,
Hmm.
what do you think? And you're no longer that jokey, laughing. There's a fine line. You still have to do that, but I feel like having a friendly approach, but still keeping it quite stern at times when you're talking about the serious stuff. And I'm talking, once I don't know if you guys on the internal side do it often, but when you debrief people and you understand, like, what do you think? And that's when I feel like you need to start turning it up a little bit more, be a bit more stern, and then you can kind of come to yourself. And there needs to kind of be this, I don't say good cop, bad cop, because it's not that, but there is still that element of it.
Yeah.
I
Of
find
course.
from
Of
experience.
course. Yeah. Um, well, the debrief that I do with the candidates is probably very different to the one that you do with them. Because you probably go very much more into detail about, hey, how did you feel about that company? Are there any red
Yeah.
flags? Of course, I will also ask that. But
Are
also
you reading my debrief form?
but they will probably also be much more honest about that with you as they would be
Yeah.
with me, I assume. But if I make an offer call, for example, I will first start with, hey, how did you feel about the process? Or not just if it's
Mm,
an offer call, also if it's a feedback call for someone that we rejected.
yeah.
I always want to hear, how was it for you? How could we improve? Is there something that you really liked? And then we'll go into. And of course, I will also tell them the reasons why we might not be able to match their expectations. Because, yeah, if someone is not quite there yet, but we see the potential, um, I will give them something to also work with, right? Which I
Yeah.
think is really important.
And I think that's built from the relationship side as well. If you feel like you can do that when you have a honest relationship with that person. And again, coming back to this, there are some people where even I get to the end of the process, I'm like, how did we get here? Like, it's very
Yeah.
transactional, and I hate when
Yeah.
it's like that because you can't really. I mean, we influence, right? Internal, external, embedded RPO, whatever. Every recruiter influences, especially when you get to the end. You have to get the answer either to a yes or to get the answer quicker to a no, so we can move on. You need to kind of do that part. But I've definitely got to points where I'm thinking I can't influence anything because they don't want to get on a call with me. There's no
Yeah.
relationship. It has been purely transactional, and that's the worst
Yeah.
feeling. Which then comes into,
Absolutely.
right, the fast-paced aspect of interviews. We want it to be quick, but not too quick, because you want to build a relationship, and then you also don't want them to take a decision too hastily.
Yeah.
Again, fine line. So how can we build into our process, or how have you built into your process, where you make the candidate feel genuinely heard, despite it being a very fast process in some cases?
Well, first, picking up that topic real quick, with being fast, um, for me also means be responsive. If they send you a message, answer to it. If you give them a deadline on when you're gonna get back to them, try to be a little bit quicker. And
Yeah.
let's face it, we never need a week for our decisions. We never do. Especially us when we're in the calls, we usually know right after if we want to move forward with someone or no.
Yeah.
So why let them wait forever? Of course, if you have a few more candidates when we're speaking from the internal perspective, of course, sometimes I want to speak to a few more, then we need to narrow it down. But usually I have a feeling about your decision already. So why letting them wait for a week?
Yeah.
And when I speak with be quick, try to get back to them within 1 or 2 days, not within 1 or 2 hours, right? Which can also happen. Like sometimes you can tell them within the call, hey, this was great. We're going to move forward.
Mm.
Um, and then, yeah, how do I make them feel heard? First of all, be responsive again. when they send messages, be transparent about your current situation, what's going on. Do we need more time? Maybe why do we need more time? And then within the conversation, again, follow up on what they said, right? Work with what they give you. Sometimes just repeat what they said. So they
Mm.
will see that you actually actively listen. Um, I told you in one of our prep calls that I've just been through a few processes this summer, and it's actually amazing how often it happens that people will just drop their questions. And of course, you see them taking notes, but it actually doesn't really seem like they're actively listening to you.
Yeah.
And then they just jump to the next question, where it's like, okay, did you receive what I said now? Does that go in the right direction for you? Is it what you wanted to hear? Do I need to give you more information? So it's a conversation, right? So treat it as one.
I think that example you've given there, I think that kind of resonates to overworked, understaffed talent teams.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
filtering through, getting through. I think treating it as a discussion, and that's why I said I don't know if you call it an interview or discussion. That first one, we've switched our language up, and we try to get all the clients we work with to say the first interview is actually a discussion, get to know each other, and then it
yeah,
it relieves so much pressure
exactly.
from the candidates. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, I can just talk. It's the exact same process. But you're just
yeah,
changing the vocabulary behind it, and it just changes the mental attitude kind of going into it, and people just feel so
absolutely.
much more relaxed. Um,
Absolutely.
Apologies. There's a few points you mentioned on that. So I
Hmm.
think with building that genuine interest about that candidate, again, it kind of comes back to I need to get X, Y, and Z, so I must do that. But then I also need to learn about this person. And again, I need to do it in 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. Again, there's always like that fine line. And I find the more experienced you are, the easier this becomes,
Of
of
course,
course.
yeah.
And for the juniors that are listening there, they're probably trying to balance 1,001 things. I've got a way that works for me, and I've deployed it the last 4 or 5 years, and it works. But I'm curious to hear kind of how you do the balancing act, and then I'll share mine after.
Yeah. Um, I mean, something that works just really, really well is have semi-structured interviews, right? This is also something that I teach our interviewing teams when I do internal workshops and interviewing. Um, it's about being prepared again, like, yeah, figure out what you want to know from them, what you need
Mhm.
from them, what do you need from them for the job. So not just general information. Then have your questions ready to make it also comparable with others.
Mhm.
And then that would first of all be structured that you always have the same question. And then semi-structured, give them time to talk and then give them time to give you what they want to give you. And then also, yeah, take information out of that and see how you can work with it. See how that resonates with what you wanted, maybe, and maybe that also opens new doors, right? So always be prepared, but also be open for anything new that might come in within the interview. And yeah, again, for a junior, it can also be very overwhelming. We know that. We've been there. And then also, maybe it helps yourself also to just see it as a conversation, as a discussion, right? So don't stress yourself too much, but have your notes, check it in between, and then also tell the people that you might need to check your list real quick, right? There's nothing wrong with it. They know that you're doing your job here and that you need to get your information. So take your time for that. Go through your list. Do I have everything
Mhm.
that I need? And then maybe leave some more time for them to ask their questions. So that will also give you information, maybe.
Very, very similar. So I break it down. So I've got a 45-minute discussion I have with someone, and I very first thing I'm kind of, and again, it might be a little bit easier because I'm external, but I've done it when I've been embedded with some teams, and it kind of works the same way. The first thing I say to people is, Matthias, look, I've got an opportunity that I think is right for you, but I don't know you, and you don't know me, and you don't know our team. So before we get into what this job is, tell me about yourself. Really open, really broad, and then I go into the semi-structured parts of the things I need to know. So I'll start gravitating the call more towards the behavioral questions, situational questions that I'm trying to explore based on what we've learned, during the intake call, and I'm trying to guide them to see, okay, does this role fit what we need you to do? And then secondly, are we what you want? And then, sorry, for example, if someone's saying, I want an on-site role, I want it to be based in Berlin, I want a team size of 30 to 100, etc., I'm working out, okay, we're not right for you. And we know that straight away.
Yeah.
Or, where are the parameters? And then I basically let them talk for as much of 30 minutes as they can fill using a couple of prompts. And then the last 15 minutes is if I think they're right for the role, I'll then spin it and use the exact same things that they've told me they want as the selling points of our company. And everyone comes off the call generally saying, I want to move forward. But of course, not everyone does get the chance to move forward. As you say, you want to speak to other people. So it's a definitive no. I actually tell them on the call. And since I've done that, it's been a game changer.
Yeah.
It saves me the administrative time. It saves them
Absolutely.
waiting around in limbo. And I'll just say, look, it's not right for you because this, and this. If it's a dead cert they are moving forward, I'll tell them. And if it's a question mark, again, say, we've got a couple other calls. I'll let you know tomorrow. Or I'll let you know by the end of the week or whatever. And again, giving myself that deadline. But it's 30 minutes mostly to talk to them about them, 15 minutes to pitch the opportunity, the team and the business. Well, I know a lot of talent teams do it the other way around. They spend way more time selling the company to the benefits that they think the person's interested in. Whereas, you start talking about dogs in the office and, travel and all that stuff. They don't care. What they're interested in is they want to work on the latest tool. Do you do that? Yes, then gravitate because that's where their mind's thinking more so than, great, I can bring my Shih Tzu to the office. But it's a similar approach, having that semi-structured but being able to be flexible as you go through.
We actually do have a super, super similar approach. I was now just talking more about how to prepare and all that. But I do think I was actually very lucky that I had like some really good lectures throughout my studies, where we also learned um, let the people talk as soon as possible because that is something that they're prepared for. They're also
Yeah.
excited about it, so they want to present themselves. So if we also want to go through how I then do the interview, I used to do 45 minutes. I narrowed it down to 30 minutes now for those first calls due to the capacity that we all have.
Yeah.
But I will always start with giving them an overview of what's going to happen. I will be like, I'm going to introduce myself to you so you also know who you're talking to. Then I would like to learn more about you. So you just tell me what you think is important to know about you. Tell me
Mhm.
what brought you into that field that we're talking about today. Then I will, of course, also have some questions for you. And then we can talk about the company. So in my case, about Bling. And then we can see how we take it from there. And after the person has introduced themselves, I will, of course, start with the easy, normal questions. Why are you looking for something else? What are you looking for? What is important for you? And I will not wait until the end of the call. Like if they give me an answer on what are you looking for? And they will tell me, I'm looking for flexibility. I'm looking for a position where I can also work from home every now and then. I'm looking for a great
Mhm.
team and da da da. Then I will already go into telling them how it is here. And
Mhm.
then we move forward. And then, of course, I will go a little bit more into the technical, behavioral, situational questions. before I do the company pitch.
So you build up interest as you go based on what they're
Yeah,
saying. Whereas obviously on the flip side, I let them get everything out and then I go in with a
yeah,
bang all in one go. It's interesting how
yeah,
different perceptions, but I think the building of interest is regardless if you do it at the end or the beginning, that first call you have to
yeah,
get momentum going. If you don't
absolutely.
sell anything back, then it's just like great, you know what they want, but they know nothing more about you.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
which
actually
is
something that I also, oh, sorry.
that's what they're gone.
It's also something that I wrote down here in my notes to mention it. Um, and I think we also talked about it before. It's so important to be an ambassador for your company. It's like,
Mm,
keep in mind, you also want something from them, not just
yeah,
see, or don't put them in a position where they have to present themselves. No, we are looking for someone. So we have an open position that we need to fill. So make it interesting for them and also show how much you enjoy working at the company. Like ideally you actually really do, right? And also, why is it good? What's important to know about the company, and maybe also tell them what's maybe not so ideal for them compared to what they're looking for, so that they know what they have to expect, right? So that they can
100%.
make the right decision. We all have to make a decision for ourselves, and it has to be the right decision for them as well.
Yeah. There's there's something, and by the way, I really hope whoever's listening is kind of stopping and taking note because we've got basically whoever is listening, you've just got two slightly different but very similar approaches to conduct a first interview. Like if you don't
Yeah.
know how to do it, if you're still struggling,
That was
whatever,
a
that
full
is
guideline, yeah.
literally it's the blueprint and a half of one. Um, but there's so many questions that we can embed into processes to get the part of why someone wouldn't join or what's not as comparable. Something that I've started to embed into the on intake call when we're talking to hiring managers. Why did you join the company, especially if they're not a founder, right? Why did you join the company? What's
Mm.
kept you in the company? Why would somebody say no to your team? Not to the company, but to the team. And then that's when you really get
Yes.
into an inclination of what is actually happening. So, for example, on face value, the team might look like they've got loads of technologies, like really a cutting edge. But when you ask them that question, and this happened a couple of weeks ago, the CTO was like, main project's done. Like we're moving into maintenance mode. So if someone wants to build, this isn't for them. If someone wants to learn and they work with the new technologies, but in maintenance mode, this is definitely something for them. So then you take that. So then that's when you're speaking to candidates and you're starting to hear trigger points and go, not exactly right. And that's when
Yeah.
you come back and say it's not exact, similar. Do you still want to hear that sort of stuff? And I think that just helps you become a
Exactly.
better
Exactly.
consultant.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like always give them the chance to think about it and don't force them into something that they don't want to have. And that also brings us back to be prepared. Like know what you bring into that conversation. Like what are you going to sell? And then also prepare your interviewers, prepare your team as well for the follow-up steps. Like tell them, give them information about the candidates, not too much because you don't want to bias them. Like give them, of course, like how did you feel about the conversation, but still leave enough room to make it a new conversation for everyone. And yeah, also prepare the people and what should they focus on in their conversation. So to make sure that they don't ask the same questions over and over again. That's then candidate experience, right? And have um, the right relationship with them, make them feel heard. Like if they will be asked in every call, what are you looking for? Why are you looking for something else? What is important for you? The person will be like, I've said that a million times already. Like, are you not taking any notes? Are you not talking to each other?
Yeah.
And also, when it's the deep dive conversation, um, focus on job related questions, right? We covered everything else already. So I would say preparation is such an important thing for everyone. It also makes everyone feel more comfortable.
I think it comes back to the big R word, right? Respect. Really,
Yes,
if you
exactly.
boil it all down, it's you're
Yeah,
respecting their time. Hopefully, they're
yeah,
equally respecting yours, and then that's the preparation part. I've covered this. Hiring manager, you cover this. Partner, you covered that. Whatever. But then you're respecting the person's time, and I think once, from experience, once candidates know you have their like you have, sorry, they can gain your respect and vice versa. And once you're in that realm, that's where honesty starts coming through more. And it doesn't matter if you're internal or external, they're going to be transparent. Say, Matthias, I don't want to join your team because this and this. And that's vital for you to
yeah,
then say, okay, we can improve. Or, no, I liked
absolutely.
your opportunity, but you didn't offer this, you didn't cover this. But you can only get that genuine feedback when candidates believe that you truly are there for them, that you truly respect them.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
But Matthias, I appreciate you taking the time. Time flies when you go for this topic. But like I say, I
Absolutely.
appreciate you spending some time and going through it with me. There's so much to cover, and I really do hope that people are scribbling down the questions to kind of embed into their processes, or to have just a think and go, are we doing enough? Because when every team is kind of thinking, how can we improve? And then consistently doing that, that's when the whole industry starts improving more. So if someone wants to
Absolutely.
take the
Absolutely.
conversation with you further, where is the best place that they can find you?
They can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. So feel free to share my profile with the listeners. I truly hope that this might help a few people. Coming from a point where I did not have a lot of support, where I did have to figure out things by myself, and where I often was very unsure about how to tackle things. I know that it is very, very nice to have some information and maybe also someone to just tell me, hey, you're on the right track, right? So I do really hope that this helps a few people.
Look, you've said you summarize it better than I could, but that's what I think as well. It is going to change the wheel, probably not for a lot of people because there might be a lot of people
Yeah.
doing it, but it's that
Yeah.
confirmation to go, okay, I'm not alone.
Yes.
There's two other people that are doing it like me. Maybe I am on the right path, or I just need to do a little tweaks here and there. And by and large, few tweaks in talent acquisition go a hell of a long way. We don't need to change the
Absolutely.
wheel. We're hiring people. We're not doing open heart surgery, right? Let's be
Exactly.
honest. But
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
those little tweaks that they're going to make us better, make ourselves better, careers, companies, etc. So Matthias, thank you so much. I'll pop your LinkedIn into the description so people can come find you.
Cool.
And hopefully we'll get the chance to do this again. But thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, would be great. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.